Hey, welcome to the channel where we show you how to put some prep in your step. Last week we talked about generating some scaffolds using the new rows step and doing that without actually having to have an additional input. Today I wanted to kind of go through another use case where you can apply this, keep it dynamic, and shape the data to get what you want out of it. So let's dive into it. So I've got a simple data set here, pretty similar to the last one. So I've just got a ticket ID, the date that it closed, and the number of days it was open. So let's, just a scenario. I need to kind of backtrack and look at how many tickets were open on a particular date, but this is the data that I have to work with. My table only captures when a ticket is closed. So what I can do here is I can try to use this days open field to determine how many rows I need to generate and then what the dates for those would be. So what I can do here is kind of keeping in the theme. I'm going to start by generating my scaffold. So here, let's say scaffold range. And so my start is for sure going to be 1, right? So I'll say scaffold start. We'll do a 1. And now for the end point, I want that to be dynamic because my number of days open field could be a little unpredictable. And so I'm going to create, say, max days open. We'll say fixed, giving my max days. Okay. And so it looks like 100 is actually my max days open. And so now I can use this as my my endpoint. So I can actually go in and name that to scaffold end. So my endpoint is always going to be equal to the max number of days open. So I'm not going to have to worry about my scaffold being too small. So now that I've got that, I can delete these. Don't need those. I've got to deduplicate because I've still got a row for every data point that was in there, so I can just group by my start and my end, and this will deduplicate my data. And then I can go into pivot that, and so I'm going to pivot these to rows. I'm just going to drag both of those there. I could do a wildcard and just search by scaffold, but I'm just keeping it simple for right now. So now I've got my 2 rows, one with my start point, one with my end point. I'm going to delete that. Say pivot scaffold. So now I can take my new rows step and I'm going to select my scaffold. And now I've got a row for every value between 1 and 100. Awesome. So here is my scaffold now. There we go. So now I can actually take my main step of the data. So what I need to do is I need to generate a date for every day that this ticket was open. And so I can sort of take this scaffold here, I'm going to join it to my main table, and I'm going to say the number of days open is greater than or equal to the scaffold. And so now for that ticket ID 1, we can see it was open for 7 days, so I'm generating 1 row for each of those days, so I've got 7 rows. So that's exactly what I want. It's looking how I need it to look. So now I've blown up my data, I've scaffolded it, but now I've got to go back and generate that date. So what I can do here now, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a clean step. I don't need, actually, you know what? I do still need this. And let's think about this. So if we are at the max scaffold, then I don't want to adjust this date at all. But anything less than that, I do want to ensure that I am generating that. So what I can do here is, let's say, okay, so I need to identify my max scaffold per ticket. So we'll say fixed at the ticket. Actually, max scaffold row is what I want. Scaffold row. Trying a little something different today, trying to think up the scenario on the fly. So let's say if my scaffold is equal to my days open, then I don't want to adjust that at all. So we're actually going to call this something else. We'll call this date adjustment. So if my scaffold is equal to the days open, I don't want to adjust the date. Otherwise, I want to take the negative scaffold. I want to return the negative amount of my scaffold. Yeah, let's try this. Okay, now even though that should still give me what I want, it'll just be in a different order than here. So what now I can do is I can say date, or yeah, so I can say date, and let's do date add, and we'll say our close date, and we'll use our scaffold as the interval that we're adding. Oh, I've got to add day, sorry, day. So I want to adjust the days by the scaffold. So for here, -6 would be taking 6 days away, and I want to do that to the close date. And I also want to just go ahead and wrap this in a date function so it's not in date time. So here we go. Let's see. And so the close date is, oh, did I use the wrong field here? Yes, I did. I wanted to do my date adjustment. Okay. I want to adjust the close date by the date adjustment. There we go. Alrighty. So now for ticket ID 1, there we go. So 12/3 should be our max date, and then every date, every row prior to that gets adjusted based on those rows. So what I can do now is I can sort of determine the statuses of those. So I can say status. So if date is equal to close date, then closed, else open, end. Cool. And so now I could use this to determine for each date how many total tickets were open. And so I'm going to go ahead, and I don't need my date adjustment anymore. I don't need my scaffold anymore. I don't need my close date anymore, or my days open. So I should be able to remove those. Got ticket ID, got our date, and got our status. And so there we go. That is, just one way to apply that scaffold. And it's going to stay dynamic. So if I ever, there's a ticket that's been open, maybe it's open longer than 100 days, maybe it's open 120 days, 180 days. Now my scaffold is going to reflect that and be able to generate the rows that I need with those dates without actually, having to go back and edit my file to make sure that I'm accounting for all those, or just have, like 10,000 rows because a ticket's not going to be open that long. But I also don't need that data. That's just not necessary. This just keeps it dynamic. It just keeps the process a little bit more automated. So yeah, there you go. Well, another way to use the scaffold, apply it to different use case, and keep it dynamic. So I hope you got some use out of this. If there's specific use cases, topics, functions that you're wanting to see, let me know, and I hope to see you in the next one.